shoot, I said as you claim it. It's that Xbox, spin the block, his legs slide. Fast talker, no riddling, moonwalking, selling moon rock just to make dividends. You in traffic with family? That much making a portrait. Gun kick back, not grannies from porches. David on the scene, you know that it's scorching. What's a man with king? No response to the saying, advancing the line, advancing the payment. You front the game and shoot, but said as you claim.
You already know the time, told my boys to hold the line. We gon' shoot it out in seconds, leave you posted like a vine. Bow your head down to the king, leave your roses at the shrine. We stay ready for the war, just need the king to drop the sign. Say what you running from, what you running from. I'm with my team, we bleed green, that's what you wanted, huh? Say what you running from, what you running from. I'm with my team, we bleed green, that's what you wanted, huh? This what you wanted. This what you wanted, huh?
Peace and blessings, and welcome back to Xbox Frontline News with your boy, the King. Now, this is a wonderful Monday. Now, over this weekend, I disconnected from the internet, and while the cat's away, the mice will play. And I've noticed that a couple of people, well, I don't know if you're going to call them people, decided to clip some of my work. Oh, thank you for coming back. This is Xbox Frontline News. If you like Xbox, if you like video game information, if you like articles being read, if you like accurate news, if you like satire and fun, well, then you found your next best channel, me, with the King. So listen, let's get into whatever the topics is going to be for today. The topics today is going to be more or less of all the stuff that's been going on. Now, you had a lot of information being dropped about stuff that I've talked about already. Now, I did tell you that PlayStation was working on a console, and I did tell you that they were working on a handheld, and I also told you Xbox was working on a console, and I also told you that Xbox is working on a handheld. I also told you that consoles and stuff would be coming out, and the dates are aligning with what the King said, because I'm 98% right all the time. Hashtag no PlayStation 6. We're going to run it up on these bums. I'm going to keep the boot on Kong's neck this whole generation. Now, we got some topics. But if you know, like I know, if you got a chance to come through on Fight Night Friday, Friday was fun. Before I left for the weekend, Fight Night was fun. We got a chance to play wrestling. We played, what was it, WWE 2025. And it's on sale right now. I think it's something like $10 or something like that. We had a great time. If you know the guys, they come through, they jump in the Discord. You don't have to be a member. You can just come in, jump in the Discord, have some fun, join. It's on Frontline Gaming Streams, where we play games daily and we have a great time. And if you happen to be a member of Xbox Frontline News, well, you dictate pace, right? Because on that channel, we're not monetized yet, and we do it absolutely for the love of the game and actually having fun. And I appreciate each and every last one of you guys that do show up. So we did have some fun doing that. And you're going to see a lot of fighting games throughout today, because Evo is in full swing. A lot of things are going on. A lot of information has been dropped. Fighting sticks, they're taking us seriously again. And I appreciate it, because there was a dark time where fighting games had taken a back seat. And today's synopsis of, if you will, at the end of today's video, I'm going to explain to you how video games, consoles, if you will, the console wars, if you will, are more mimicking and more aligning themselves with what we see happening with fighting games. So buckle in. We're about to make it happen. Xbox Frontline News. I'm the best to do it, baby. If I'm not your favorite, I want to know why. You know now, I got to go into all of this information. Now, a lot of times people get the wrong information, so I'm going to give you multiple sources based off of what I can decipher of what's going on. See, a lot of people just want to talk about either Kepler or they want to talk about Moore's Law. Sony Canis PlayStation's handheld should beat the Xbox ROG Ally X in performance. And he says, but I'm convinced it's really gunning for the Switch 2. This is published by Phil Houghton on August 1st. Now, everybody that had a Vita would really understand Sony's pedigree when it comes to handhelds. I still have 2 Vitas. I sold one of my Vitas for my Switch 2. I had 3 of them. I had the 2 that was part of AT&T, and then I had the one that wasn't. So the one that wasn't, I sold that one. Well, what he's talking about is, the leaks surrounding Sony upcoming PlayStation Canis handheld just surfaced, and it's apparently going to beat the Xbox ROG Ally X based off of, the chipset, because it'll be a new AMD chipset. Now, listen, if it's a handheld that comes out at least 2 to 3 years after another handheld, there stands the chance that, and it stands to reason that it should beat it as far as performance goes. Now, the fresh wave of PlayStation handheld information comes courtesy of Moore's Law is dead, and it arrives alongside the PlayStation 6 could be cheaper and faster than the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, that's another topic that I will go into in a minute, but according to Moore's Law is dead, in the breakdown of the handheld, we use a monolithic AMD chipset that effectively means it will use an all-in-one APU that incorporates a CPU and a GPU elements rather than having separate chips, and approach is pretty similar to the Switch 2. I personally feel that that's a big no-no. Anybody that has a Switch 2 understands that it's not a powerful device. I have my Steam Deck. I believe my Steam Deck is a more powerful device. My ROG Ally, and I got rid of that because I'm picking up the ROG Ally X. I believe that is a tremendously way more powerful device compared to the Switch 2. But price versus performance is what we're looking for here. As you may notice, a lot of current gen games are skipping the Switch 2. Some games can be done. I think a lot of games can be done, but is it the price to performance ratio what you're going to get? So Moore's Law is dead too says the PlayStation 6 handheld should beat the ROG Ally X in performance, but it doesn't come off as a powerhouse. That could be due to the fact that it only has a 15-watt TBP requirements, which feels kind of low considering Microsoft and Asus portable PC uses a 30-watt in turbo mode. Running at a lower wattage could give the device a big advantage in battery life and efficiency, but that's something that'll help, combat the Switch 2. Now, leaks point towards Project Canis featuring an AMD chip and a 4 Zen 6 cores, 12 to 28 RDNA 2 5 compute units that run up to 2 gigs and support for GDDR7 memory. So you can count the CPU count less here than the Ryzen Z2 Extreme chip that will be with the ROG Ally X, but there'll be a generation ahead, plus the GPU and core range mean it could end up being outright more beefier than the ROG Ally handheld. But again, is this thing better than a Steam Deck? It compares to a Steam Deck, OLED. I don't know. Time would tell what this handheld would be. But what I'm noticing is they're trying to do an all-in-one solution, and we all know when it's an all-in-one solution, sometimes it's not favorable for those that are craving power and are looking to one-up the competition. I think this is part of the get-along game. If you're like myself, then you grew up on Virtua Fighter. You grew up when it was polygons. You grew up when it got refined. You grew up on Virtua Fighters being the end-all, be-all in fighting games, 3D fighting games. And then, came the likes of Tekken and such like that. But right now, Virtua Fighters 5 Revo World Stage hits Xbox in October. The price and the beta details is going to be revealed. Now, I know you're going to say, how much is this going to cost me for an old game that got basically a couple of new stages, maybe some more refinements to it, rollback net code, which is actually definitely needed, especially when you're going to be playing on multiple consoles. This thing is going to be launching on the Xbox, the PlayStation, the Steam library, and also the Switch 2. Now, the Switch 2 is at a later date. I think they have to do a whole lot more to get that thing up and running on that machine. But for all of us that are living in current gen right now, following its Xbox Series X and S the reveal back in May, Sega has revealed today that the Virtua Fighters 5 Revo World Stage will release for the two Xbox consoles on October 30th, 2025. Pre-orders has officially begun, and you can go get that right now. Now, it's super cheap. Right now, it's $20. And of course, it's still just an updated version of the 360 game, but it does include lots of new features such as rollback netcode, crossplay, brand new single player mode called World Stage. And here's a description of what World Stage is. A brand new single player mode World Stage is coming to the game as part of a free update. Here, players will challenge powerful rivals on a solo quest to become the ultimate fighter, unlocking customization items along the way. It's also been announced that a closed beta will be taking place early September for Virtua Fighter 5 Revo World Stage. Although the signups didn't appear to be available at this time of writing, Sega advises that you'll need a Sega account for it, and it'll include a special in-game title for those who take part. Listen, if you're a fan of 3D fighting games, and this is probably the granddaddy of them all, the pioneer, if you will, Virtua Fighters 5 Revo World Stage arrives on the Xbox, and Fight Night Fridays will never be the same. So if you partake in fighting games and fighting games is your thing, PlayStation dudes, you're able to partake. PC guys, you're just like us, so you're able to join in with us. So let everyone have a great time playing Virtua Fighters. And if this is your first time getting a chance to play it, you're going to play one of the tightest, most refined fighting games in existence, and something that I truly champion. I think Virtua Fighters is a staple in any fighters, any guy that calls them guy or girl or calls themselves a fighter, they definitely have to be well versed in Virtua Fighter. Remember when I told you that your television, your input device is going to be key to your output device, right? So these two things are coming to what I would like to say, a meeting of the minds, if you will. I've tried to explain it a long time ago how certain televisions don't reach a level of fidelity that is necessary for the output device. The input device is basically at the behest of whatever the output device is, right? So if you have a great input device, if you have a great console, the output device, that's the display unit, is definitely necessary to be top notch, to deliver what is being input into the machine. Now, Battlefield 6 reveals multiple performance modes on Xbox Series X and S. 60 frames per second is a minimum. We had to wait a while for concrete details on Battlefield 6, but we are truly happy that EA just blew the lid off of it. Its upcoming AAA first-person shooter has dropped a ton of information. Now, one of the biggest things that I was confused about, or I wanted to know about, is because I know a lot of times that they're going to show these things in the best light on a PC. Shout out to Sovereign bringing that up this Sunday. And I wanted to see and hear and know what it was like on console. Now, a lot of people that I talked to told me that, yeah, it's running phenomenally. Now, I got some concrete evidence. That one of the questions was asked at the Q&A session was, will Battlefield 6 have a quality or performance modes? They say yes, there will be an option to choose between prioritizing game performance or image quality on both PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and X. This is something that was necessary, and it was answered in a Reddit post. A lot of people will sacrifice fidelity for performance, especially in a first-person shooter where performance is key. And a lot of other people don't want to sacrifice fidelity for for performance. And I can understand it because a lot of times I'm a graphical whore. So pick your poison, have fun. Battlefield is almost upon us, and Fight Night Fridays will never be the same. Xbox Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond make a surprise appearance at China Joy 2025. Now, China Joy Gaming Festival has been taking place at the Shanghai New International Expo Center over the past few days. And although Xbox wasn't expected to play a major role in the event, Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond ended up making a surprise appearance. In a series of photos shared by the official Xbox account on Weibo, Microsoft Gaming CEO, Xbox President are shown checking out a variety of games and said to include titles from Tencent, NetEase, and others. Now, they can't share the original polls for technical reasons, but they can reshare it on Twitter. Now, if anybody gets a chance to look, my guy right here in the back, my dude, Jason Ronald, is there. If you know anything like I know anything, I understand the wizard is in the building and his expertise is necessary on a couple of things. Now, here goes Sarah Bond and Phil standing next to a ton of statues. And if you get a chance to look, there's a World of Warcraft statues. See the orcs and the stuff in the back? And I would love those statues. I'm not even going to hold you. Right? And over here, they're playing a game over at NetEase, and Phil seems to be having a great time, and Sarah seems to be focused on beating Phil. And that's about it. So it's just 3 pitches. But again, them showing up at China Joy 2025 is incredible, knowing that they're doing stuff in that region, making sure that games are going forward. Now, the next time we get a chance to see Sarah Bond and Phil would be at Gamescom 2025 later this month, as Xbox set to have a ton of stuff going on. And next few days, we should be hearing a whole lot more. Now, I was told that it wasn't going to be a ton of games. It was just only going to be live service games, and it was only going to be this, that, and the third. And they really didn't need to open up a new position, and PlayStation really doesn't need Xbox's money. Well, for all you goofy people out there that decided to take a stance in that pool that really didn't want to really acknowledge the forest for the trees. First of all, I got to give a shout out to my man Porter Rock. Porter Rock is standing on business when it comes to this. I don't know if any more of them has actually acknowledged what we all acknowledge and see. But I highly recommend going to check out his video where, Porter Rock basically bends the knee to understand that Sony really doesn't give a damn about the PlayStation fan base at all. And all that stuff that people were clowning Xbox guys for, well, it turned back to bite them in the ass. Now, we're living in strange times, and hot on the heels of the Sony job listing that they was talking about hiring an executive to work on PlayStation multi-platform strategy. New rumors are indeed suggesting that the Japanese game maker has planned to bring more games to Xbox. This is coming from well-known leaker Nate the Hate. Now, anytime that y'all want to quote Nate the Hate when it's Xbox stuff coming out, well, he's an equal opportunity hater. So understand that the pendulum swings to thee now. Who has taken social media definitively state that more Sony games will be coming to Xbox. Yes, when pressed on whether this will be Sony's full slate or just a live service title, the insider added that they don't have any specific things to share at the time. So, Clute was talking to Nate the Hate, and, more Sony games will come to Xbox. Yes, I don't know anything about Lego Horizon going to Xbox, but even if I did, would anybody care? Nate the Hate goes on to stress that, he doesn't know what PlayStation games will come, just that Sony has plans to bring more stuff over following the recent announcement of Helldivers 2. It's worth keeping any other expectations in check, especially in regard to Sony's big franchises like Uncharted, Last of Us, and God of War. But listen, With Xbox dominating the PlayStation ecosystem, I think Sony needs to save face to show that their games are as equally as influential. They're in it to make money. They're not in it to make friends. And sometimes you got to do something strange to make some change. You can't have Xbox continuing to go up in market share and go up in stock prices as Sony stays stagnant at $24. That's just really shouldn't be a thing. There's no way in hell that Sony stock should be that low. And you get a couple of $1,000, you can go buy some really good stock right now. So, and then when they have some splits, you're good. I highly suggest it. The world is definitely upside down, and things that weren't happening on Xbox is happening on Xbox. Monster Hunter Stories is finally making its debut on the Xbox in 2026. The third game has just been announced. Now, normally Xbox doesn't get these games. The good news for Monster Hunter fans, Capcom has announced today as part of the July 2025 Nintendo Direct that Monster Hunter Stories 3 will be coming to Xbox Series X and S when it's launched at some point next year. Today's showcase was kicked off with the reveal trailer of the game, which carries a subtitle of The Twisted Reflection. When it launches next year, the Monster Hunter Stories will still be around for a decade and have originated on the Nintendo 3DS and wound up on various other platforms over the years, but not Xbox until now. Now, hopefully, this thing, you can probably get the other two stories at some point in time. I don't know. But if you're a fan, and it does look incredible to me, it does give me a Wind Waker. I like that Tears of the Kingdom. I like the art style. The art style is pleasing to me. Capcom seems to know exactly what they're doing with these games, and I don't know. I don't really like the formula for Monster Hunter, so maybe this one might be a little bit more appealing to me. I don't know. It looked good. If it's priced appropriately, I might take a dip. New PlayStation 6 leaks, hence at 4K 120 frames per second performance and a price point that is lower than the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, according to the leaks from a reputable source, the PlayStation 6 will be more affordable than the PlayStation 5 Pro, and it will also consume less power. I smell crap. The PlayStation 6 is rumored to feature Zen 6 cores, RDNA 5 GPU, GDDR7 memory, and enhanced ray tracing and aiming for 4K 120 frames per second. Sony is also planning to release a handheld to accompany the console, which is said to pack more power than Xbox ROG Ally X. Now, this is what is named, right? So, for the details on the PlayStation 6 itself, it's codenamed Orion, while its handheld is called Canis. And that's the code name. Its leaked specifications are based on an internal AMD documents from 2023. So there's a chance that Sony plans may have shifted since then. But for the time being, here's what the PlayStation 6 could be packing under the hood. Now, notice the words could be packing. Notice that it's from a 2023 leak. Remember when I started talking about the PlayStation being released, the PlayStation 6 being released in a window of 2028? And I said, that is too far out. Me knowing that the Xbox will be launching in 2026. And I was just like clown. But again, so it's an 8 times Zen 6 or later cores, 160 watt TBP, 40 to 48 plus RDNA 5 compute units at 3 gigs per second, 160-bit or 192-bit bus with GDDR7 at 32 GT hertz, 3 times greater restoration performance of the PlayStation 5, better ray tracing is expected, chipset design, possibly using Navi 5 desktop chipsets, and back compatible with the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4. The main thing here is that 4K 120 frames per second output. Now, what they also has been talking about is that they could be targeting a mid-fall 2027 or early 2028 release. 2028 coincides with what I've been talking about, and I've been hearing that it was supposed to be late 2028, early 2029 from the white sheets that I know of. But again, I'm just 98% right all the time. And I told you that we will make it to this place. I also told you that the handheld will come out first. I also told you that the handheld will be wildly successful, undercutting the PlayStation 6 and the need for PlayStation 6. But who am I? I'm just Lord King David. Now, for this one, I'm going to be talking about the price and the power of the Sony new handheld, right? So price and power seems to be the biggest thing because they seem to be worried about certain handhelds that's in the marketplace that are actually coming out this year, right? Now, everybody is trying to dissect exactly Sony's plans. And if any indication of Sony opening up job listings and opening up Sony publishing and things of that nature, you can never truly understand exactly Sony's plans. But yet they still take stabs at it. Now, they said this isn't a PC. All right. They're talking about this 4K 160 instead of, they're not going to say they can do 4K 160. They're saying they can do 4K 120 because this isn't a PC. It's limited to the TVs, people's TV use. The TVs that people most use are 4K 120 and frankly 4K 60. Yeah, they're TCL dudes. See, PlayStation is keeping in mind that the TCL people will never make the leap over, right? And this would be done easily. If stopped at the exact limit of what the TVs are capable right now, that gives you $400 to $600 console instead of a $700 to $1,000 console. That makes total sense in their opinion in this generation. Now, they also point out that Sony is doing a lower power setting for the PlayStation 5 in order to make sure that the games hit a certain metrics, if you will, in order to be more cost effective. Now, everything that I've gotten from all the information that I've seen so far is indicating that Sony is producing budget-friendly consoles. And budget-friendly consoles is to keep that whole McDonald's train going. The handhelds, I honestly believe, are going to be a variation of the Portal with some form of a storage built into it and with some form of capabilities in order for it to actually do the games, render the games, opposed to streaming the games. But I do believe streaming will lean heavily into this device. Take it with a grain of salt, but I think they struck gold when it came to the Portal and they see the stuff that they got from it. I honestly believe that is a bigger indication of where they're going with this. Now, I remember when somebody clipped my video and I was telling people that the Magnus wasn't the PlayStation 6 and the Magnus was greater than, and I don't know why they're always trying to associate themselves with something greater than. And then I immediately says hashtag no PlayStation 6. You know what it is. We're going to run it up on these bums. I'm going to keep the boot on Kong's neck this whole generation. So a lot of that stuff was edited, clipped, and changed. And it's cool. I don't care. But WCCF Tech, Francisco de Mayo did this article that I'm reading from. Since a lot of people like to say I lie, where I'm just literally reading from articles. Xbox Next Magnus APU will provide a flexibility for scaling and an entire stack of systems that will likely compete more with a pre-built PC than the PlayStation 6. And when I saw what Magnus was, I immediately knew that it had nothing to do with the PlayStation. The two philosophies in the companies dictate that one isn't worrying about price, the other is definitely worrying about price. The Magnus APU is rumored to be powering the next Xbox next generation system. It will provide a unique design and a lot of flexibility that will allow Microsoft to scale an entire stack of systems that are more likely to compete with a PC than the PlayStation 6 and other traditional consoles. The latest episode of the weekly podcast on Digital Foundry went over the recently leaked Magnus APU and said that the power that the next generation Xbox highlighting now is different from the APUs powering in the past and the current generation of PlayStation and Xboxes. Not only in terms of size, but also in terms of design. Not only does the design feature a separate CPU and GPU dies, steps away from the traditional monolithic design that balances power and cost, it's also more powerful than anything that they've seen such far and supports the potential iterative approach of console design, giving Microsoft the ability to mix dies for more frequent upgrades than the traditional console cycles. This design could also be carried across multiple generations, falling in line with the phrases and approach as opposed to the current generation's approach Microsoft seems to be aiming for, considering recent developments. Although the Xbox and the next generation console Magnus APUs looks expensive, its flexibility and potentially also impact the gaming PC market, Digital Foundry speculates. AMD's point of view, being able to ship an entire Xbox PC with its condensed, likely cheaper design could hugely allow them to gain a bigger share in the market and provide a cheaper alternative to pre-built PCs, which are far more affordable. As such, these real possibilities that the concept of the console war being between Sony and Microsoft will change forever, as Xbox next generation systems will most likely compete with PCs rather than a PlayStation. When I told you PlayStation wasn't competition, you thought I was just playing around. Now it's time for you to get this work. Now, this is the time I think people like the most, right? And especially us old heads, where we get a chance to see new information based on tech that we are enthusiastic about. New shiny object, we want in. And that seems to be the thought process in all of this, right? New shiny object, we want in. Okay, so new shiny object is, let's start off with the Xbox ROG Ally X. Let's start off with the one that's trying to be disrespected before it even announced. Now, for a very long time, that is going to be one of the most powerful handhelds in the marketplace, bearing the Xbox brandage, their signage, if you will. That device is going to be the flagship Xbox handheld going forward for the foreseeable future. And with that device comes a lot of scrutiny based upon people's ideology. Well, Xbox didn't make it. They partnered with Asus, yada, yada, yada. A lot of detractors are going to talk like that. Now, individuals that actually have the money for the handheld, for the console, aren't going to talk like that. They're going to say, see object, want object, buy object, use object. That's it. Other people are going to use reasons for why they don't want to get it, why they don't want to support, or why it's not in line with their thinking. And that's cool. Whatever floats your boat. Denial is a river in Egypt, and I suggest you go sail it because you are there at the moment, right? Then we're going to go into the PlayStation handheld because I think it's only right to do so. Now, the PlayStation handheld is being looked at as a device that is supposed to be superior to the Xbox ROG Ally X. Now, you're talking about a device that will be coming out in a calendar year or a financial year, probably 2 years after the Xbox ROG Ally X. So for 2 years, Xbox guys are going to enjoy the Xbox ROG Ally X. And at some point in time, the PlayStation handheld Canis will make its way to the marketplace. Now, what they're aiming for is they're aiming for a device that can probably directly compete with the Switch 2. Now, if anyone knows what the Switch 2 is like, the Switch 2 is a low-powered machine that is great on battery life, that necessarily isn't going to break any graphical sound barriers, but is going to put it in line with traditional hardware, if you will, cost-wise, function-wise, and they have a clear agenda for it. PlayStation, I think, is going to try to mimic that in a form of factor, but at the same time try to shoot for a little bit of the stars of Xbox ROG Ally X by hoping that the tech will age itself just enough for it to be comparable to that device, but at a cheaper cost. Because we all know that the Xbox ROG Ally X will be upwards to $800 to $1,000. Now, in knowing that price that is there, that price won't be the same price when the PlayStation handheld releases. 2 different markets, 2 different marketplaces. The PlayStation handheld is more aligned with going after the fan base of the Switch 2. They are more in line with each other. They're more in competition. That is who PlayStation is targeting. They're targeting that fan base. They're targeting that demographic that wants just a little bit more horsepower, but at that budget-friendly price. Now, I think it's only right to talk about the PlayStation 6 leaks itself. Now, this doesn't take away from me telling you that the PlayStation handheld is going to come out. It's going to be wildly successful. And it's just going to be as powerful as a PlayStation 5. And you're going to get PlayStation 5 games that's going to be workable in that small space. And that is great for that device. It's cute. It's quaint. It's nice, right? Because technically, the Xbox ROG Ally X, it's more powerful than your little PlayStation 5. So that handheld, utilizing the PlayStation 5's library, be it digital, be it streaming, I think that's more cost effective and a great thing. But the actual hardware of the 6, I think, will be undercut by the handheld, because I believe the handheld is going to be the moneymaker, the seller. The PlayStation 6 itself, in my opinion, won't make it out the door because you're going to look at the price, the cost ratio. Now, what they're trying to say is they're trying to sell you a budget version of the PlayStation 6 that will be cheaper than the PlayStation 5 Pro, but have a lower power indicator and supposed to have better rasterization. Just because it's going to be better tech in the box, they're going to try to figure out a way, because they're going to have the CPU and GPU on one die. They're going cost effective. They're budget friendly. They're like McDonald's, if you will. If you understand, McDonald's does tons of business throughout the world. McDonald's is a cheap alternative to a fine dining experience, and you understand that going in when you go to purchase anything from McDonald's. Yes, you're going to get a meal. Is it going to be a quality meal? No, but it's going to be something that is going to sustain you and something that you can count on, because a Big Mac is made throughout the world, right? So you can tell that a Big Mac is the same Big Mac that is made in Louisiana, that is made in New York, a Big Mac. So what you're going to get with your PlayStation 6, hashtag no PlayStation 6, is you're going to get the Happy Meal. You're going to get the Big Mac. You're going to get that franchise. You're paying, if you will, for the franchise. You're not really paying for the premium. And that's what Sony understands. Sony understands that they have enough brand equity that you guys are going to stick with them regardless, and you're going to get Happy Meal type services. And that's okay. The PlayStation 6, if it ever shows up, will definitely be the Happy Meal experience. Now, the Xbox, the Magnus, the one that dude said that was a PlayStation, and I told you that absolutely wasn't. The flexibility and the thought process behind the Magnus is that the CPU and the GPU is completely separate, allowing it to be a flexible Xbox PC hybrid, something that we have not encountered in the console space yet, something that is going up against greater opposition opposed to lesser opposition, something that is more of a fine dining experience, something that is like a general what would you say, a Roof Chris, something like that, like a great fine dining experience, the Mr. Chow's, stuff like that. You know, Gordon Ramsay, those type of experiences, right? Whereas the PlayStation is looking to save costs, sell as many units as possible. Xbox wants that premium experience. They want the Xbox Game Pass subscriber. They want the Xbox experience to be top tier, top notch. This is the reason why they teamed up with MetaQuest in order to bring you the top tier in what's considered VR right now, AR, VR, right? Untethered, a beautiful experience wrapped around an Xbox, and that brought that to you. And they did the same thing with the Xbox ROG Ally X, bringing you a device that is top tier, high quality, yes, heavy on wallet, but at the same time bringing you what the Xbox consumer craves: premium experience. That experience where the PlayStation will shy away from going in that area of making a great experience for the gamer and the consumer. Xbox doesn't spare any expense. So that's how I knew the Magnus was Xbox, and the Orion and the Katniss was PlayStation. Xbox doesn't dabble in lowering power specs, and I'm trying to get cost effective and put everything on one die. Those days are over. But much like fighting games, those days being over where they would fight each other. We're at a place now where Street Fighter and Fatal Fury, which was mortal enemies, are now interacting with each other in everybody's games. See, fighting games used to feel like there was like console warring. They had to pick a side. You was a Fatal Fury guy, SNK guy, or you was a Capcom guy. And with these games now merging characters, merging stories, playing more friendly, if you will, being all over the place, because they understand high tides raise all sails, right? So PlayStation can sell as many consoles as possible and have that McDonald's experience, because Xbox games will be sold on that McDonald's experience. And if you want to partake in some form or fashion on how Xbox does things, cool, they have you covered there. Also, if you want that playground feel, you have Nintendo, right? At a lesser extent, right? Xbox has games going there. But for the Xbox experience, for the top tier, for the premium choice, for those discerning individuals, then you have the Xbox experience. And much like the new fighting games, there's no more bickering between the three, right? Everybody has their lane. You have the low tier, the middle tier, and the high tier. You have high class, high society. And you have middle class, and you have the underlings, if you will, the Nintendos of the world. You know, the guys that won't get Grand Theft Auto 6. Them people. Oh, those guys. But this is Xbox Frontline News. And I'm your boy, the King. If you liked anything that you see here, please like, follow, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell, because I drop videos daily. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time always. And I go live at least once or twice a week, randomly during the week. But on Saturdays, I go live at 12 p.m. noon. And we talk all the gaming of the week. This weekend, I didn't do it because this weekend I was out with family and we were having such a great time. Sometimes you have to disconnect from this matrix in order to do things with the people that matter the most. Love those that love you. because every day isn't promised. So make sure you make the best out of every day. And do like I do. Go where gamers game and winners win. And try to play the Game Pass.